All right, well, here we are, week number 6. I've got a little different environment. I've got my Mac is on loan, so I'm on a different computer getting myself set up. I've got Michelle Schuster joining me today as my colleague here. And so welcome to week 6 of the Financial Roundtable for Schools. And obviously the schools are such a big part of the ecosystem. And I love that we get to spend time like this with each other to talk about financial related issues and opportunities. We just had the Financial Roundtable for Salons a couple hours ago. Actually, it was week number 50, a big milestone. And we had some things to come out of that we'll share with you. So as far as these roundtables go for schools, I want to thank Pivot Point for being a sponsor. And also Lightheart Sanders, CPAs. They're doing a great job of doing a benchmarking study. And back to Pivot Point, absolutely a lot of gratitude for Pivot Point for their amazing team, their sponsorship, and the work that they do in the school industry. So again, this particular roundtable is modeled off of something that we've done for 50 weeks for salons. And we're developing a brain trust. Last week, we had Qnity joining us. Carrie did a great job, not last week, it was 2 weeks ago, from Milwaukee and Madison-based schools. Thank you, Carrie, for your shares. They were amazing and appreciate your contribution. So we're gradually developing our brain trust for the schools. Susan Heisey, we got Nicole Cumberlander, Linnell Lynch, all helped us kick off these roundtables, and we're looking forward to getting more of you involved. We're looking for light bulb moments today, and heads up, we will not have a roundtable next week. We're going to take a week off due to the celebration of Independence Day, and we'll be back together on July 14th. So we're going to jump right in. We've got some topics of interest to you, and I'm going to lean on Michelle here a little bit. Hello, Michelle. How are you?
Good afternoon. I'm great. Nice to be here. Thanks for being here, everyone.
So there's a few topics that came up as we were getting ready for this week that I thought would be good to share with our group. And one of them is stimulated by an article that relates to a 4-day work week. And it's an article from Inc. magazine, and it's what Kickstarter is doing. Kickstart is not only kickstarting their way into a 4-day work week, they also appear to be leading a petition, if I understand this right, to create a more of a movement around that. So let's talk about that for a little bit. Okay, Michelle, what did you glean from this, and what do you think it means to school owners?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, one of the biggest things to come out of the pandemic is that workers want more flexibility. And many people have tried the 4-day work week in several places. Several countries are actually paying companies to try the 4-day work week. Spain's government is paying their companies. London-based consumer goods company Unilever is doing a year-long test moving to a 4-day work week. And Kickstarter is implementing it there. They even started a petition to help identify companies that would give it a try. Research is showing that productivity spikes 40%, and 92% of employees say that they really appreciate the flexibility that comes with a 4-day work week. And so it's drastically increasing engagement and staff retention.
I'm wondering, we've got a lot of smart people here that are participating. I wonder if anybody wants to raise their hand and provide any comments about this. And I'm familiar with somebody that started a movement more in the salon, with salons that was more about a 3-day work week, and which can work in certain environments. But, it seems to me to be a very natural trend, Michelle, and certainly we see.
It's even happening. Sorry, Tom.
Go ahead.
It's happening some with education. Like I know my high school students, their high schools have moved to a 4-day school week. And so I'm wondering how that applies also to schools and with students, and having students be able to be on a 4-day work week.
Leah, I switched to a 4-day work week, Monday through Thursday at my school for staff and students about 4 years ago. Leah, we've got to have you weigh in on this. Leah, would you be willing to come off the mic and share a little bit on this because I'm dying to learn. Okay, there you are. Leah, we're going to put you on the spot. Would you like to talk about this with your peers?
Can you hear me?
Yes. How are you? Thanks for your comment.
Yeah, no, I had a few years back, originally I'd opened the school in 2012 and started on a traditional Tuesday through Saturday schedule. And I just started watching the metrics, and my attendance for students was just not great on Saturdays. And so then I kind of went to a traditional Monday through Friday, and looking at the student schedules, I said, well, why don't we just cut out an extra day? It's one less day for me to have to pay my team, and just extend our class day and our work days a little bit. And so a little over 4 years ago, we started Monday through Thursday, and our day shift is an 8 to 4:30, and then I'm open until 10. So I do have split shifts going on. But I found that my student body count has continued to grow, and I've retained my staff that have now been with me since 2015 and before. And it's just a better quality of life for us as a team. And I feel like the students appreciate the flexibility of not having to be there Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Were there any hiccups that, so you implemented this a while ago, and it's obviously stood the test of time, so it's working for you, Leah. Were there any hiccups at the beginning, or if somebody's interested in delving into this, any recommendations?
For me, my concern whenever I do a transition or a change is just, even if it's a good change or it's meant to be a positive, students and sometimes staff can always, change is change and people become uncomfortable. And so I ended up starting it, test piloting it with a new group rather than the prior group, and I kept the original schedule available to everyone, allowed them to opt in or allowed them to phase out, or I should say graduate on their regular schedule. So I can't say, just hindsight without sitting here and chewing on it a bit, I can't say that I ran into any major hiccups. And for me, I'd say the aha was opening up Fridays for myself, and then for the admin team, just to have quiet time, if you will, or time to brainstorm and visit together when no one else is in the building, or offering Advanced Academy now that I have extra space available, on a day that originally or otherwise would be utilized fully in, full capacity.
So you did some change management is what we'd call it, start with opt-in, give people do some piloting, work on a communication strategy and what have you. So, and the metrics have served you well through the years, huh, Leah? Any regrets?
Yes, I've continued to see growth. And I also switched for those who have night programs, I originally had a 4-night shift and I switched that to a 3-night shift. And that has also been very beneficial as far as admissions numbers go.
Leah, thank you so much for weighing in. Give us just a little bit about yourself, where you're located, what's the name of your school, and maybe one other thing.
I'm Salon Boutique Academy. I'm in Dallas, Texas, predominantly a skincare school, but also offer cosmetology.
All right. Well, thanks for contributing. Okay. We appreciate it. Awesome. This, Michelle, I think of something that we got a question here. Clarification. Are you and your admin on 5 days and your instructors and students on 4 days? So Lee, we got a clarifying question, please.
I am a bit of a flex manager, if you will. So as long as they're completing their, projects and getting everything done, they can really work whatever shift that they'd like. Typically, everyone is there Monday through Thursday, but some of the admin do choose to shorten some of their days and then use Friday for quiet time.
All right. Thanks for the clarification. Carrie, I hope that answered your question. And Carrie, thank you for the question. So, Michelle, I recall we had Stephanie Fox on here. I think it was the second or third session. And she had this robust study about what the workforce is looking for. And one of the things that really jumped out at me is that more people want to talk about their schedule than they want to talk about pay. I think it was like 20% more wanted to talk about that ahead of pay. So clearly, we're looking for innovation as it relates to flexibility and scheduling. Joe, thank you, Joe, for your comment. We continue to be open 6 days a week, but we have multiple streams of delivery, 3, 4, 5 days. Students can choose their stream. I like that word, stream. That's a good word, Joe. Staff can adjust their shifts to work as per the streams as well. Joe, do you want to come and share a little bit more about this? We'll put you on the spot. You certainly can decline. There you are popping up. Joe, did you want to talk about that a little further? I think some people might actually have some questions for you.
Yeah, sure. It's probably been about 2 or 3 years that we've had very similar to Leah's comments. We saw Matrix, and it was very difficult to have students sort of come the full 5 days a week, whether it was a Tuesday through Saturday or a Monday through Friday. So we started to come up with some alternative streams of delivery. We actually went to a 3-day delivery method at some schools, and found that there was interest, and we adjusted even the start times of them, and so what we were finding is that the students were enjoying the flexibility to adjust their schedule. So we just started to modify, and we created these different streams. So once you start in a particular stream, then you're in that. Like, say, they don't get to sort of change sort of midway through right away. They're sort of, if they're 3 day a week, they're 3 day a week, because the curriculum is set up for delivery for those particular students. Once they're ready to be in the student salon, they can adjust their hours and come more frequently and just sort of work in the salon. But the school itself, the building is open 6 days a week. So it does get a little tricky with scheduling staff to be there to make sure the building is fully manned all the time. But there's a lot of job sharing and time sharing between all the staff as well. So.
Thank you, Joe. We're going to get Mark Gonzalez up here tonight. But before you go, Joe, where are you located?
Canada. So
I knew you were Canadian.
My accent? No, yeah, MC College, our main campus is in Edmonton, but we have 6 campuses across Western Canada.
All right, Joe, thanks for weighing in. I appreciate you being on the call. I appreciate you sharing with us, and love Canada. I've been all over Canada, 7 out of the 10 Canadian provinces. My son, Ryan, his middle name is Everything's Better in Canada. So thanks for weighing in today, Joe, and I hope to see you in a next session, okay?
Yeah, thanks.
Mark, how are you? Good.
How you doing?
Good morning, it would be, right?
Good morning. Yes, still morning. It's 11:20. I think I actually raised my hand, but I'm welcome. If you invited me up, I'm more than happy to be here. But I'm driving, and I think I raised my hand by mistake. But anyway, I'm here. The bell's on, and if you got anything you want to ask me, go ahead, please.
We'll stay on. We've got some other topics here, Mark. So I'm going to, Michelle, let's shift over to a couple other things that we wanted to talk about with the group today. And we talked about the 4-day work week. And Michelle, this one was really interesting. Okay, desperate for staff. Here, I've got to move something around here. Desperate for staff. This ice cream shop owner made an unusual decision. Talk about this a little bit with the group, okay?
Yeah. So he was opening up post-pandemic and could not find staff. He had been paying people close to minimum wage, which was $7.25, and had advertised on all the things and wasn't getting any responses. He made a drastic decision. He raised his starting salary to $15 an hour. So way jumps, brought anyone who was already working for him to $15 an hour, and then advertised for $15 an hour. And within 2 weeks, he had over 1,000 job applications. Wasn't able to even get through them all, and found a great team. And he talked about how for so long he just was stuck, that he needed to pay people minimum wage. It was this sort of emotional reaction. And really didn't look at even if his business could handle hiring people at a higher wage. And it made a huge difference for him to change it. And it really didn't change his profitability much from what the article says. It's super interesting. I know that as we talk nationally about changing the minimum wage to $15 an hour. A lot of the salons and businesses that we're working with are already preparing to pay people that and looking at making the switch. But I think it's something people may want to think about sooner rather than later.
Yeah, we're working with two. I'm going to put my headphones back on here. Yeah, we're actually working with two companies right now, just even in the last 2 weeks. And it's interesting. One company's in Texas, and the owner said, no way in Texas is the minimum wage going to go to $15. Then we have someone in Pennsylvania that wants to be proactive, and she's trying to figure out how to fund a across the board increase, at least for her front line. So, I'm curious how they maintain their profitability on this. I guess with lower turnover and less gaps of staffing, I think it's a really challenging thing for a lot of us, including myself, to look at the numbers here and say, okay, so how is this going to make sense? So I don't know if anybody else has anything to share on this one, whether it's Mark, because I think we've already got you on the mic, or anybody else. Feel free to raise your hand. We love getting the conversation going. And
Tom, that was one of the biggest things that they stated was turnover. The ability to retain staff and not having to continually reinvest in training new people, and even the advertisements to get applicants. That company in Texas that we were talking to, they pulled up their Indeed invoices, and they had spent over $5,000 just on recruiting. What if they took that $5,000 and added it into employee salaries as opposed to paying for the recruiting?
I'd love to see if we have any comments on this one. Mark, any comments on this one? Guys driving here, we'll give them a break.
There you go. So I'm muted there. We're actually doing the same thing. I think we're anticipating that going in, so we're trying to recalculate how we're going to allocate for, with their price raising and things in there and scheduling to make it. I do think less turnover will, in some way, maybe cover 25% of that cost. Because I agree, that's expensive in itself. Doing the training every 6 months, because there's always been high turnover in that area, and I think we need to treat that job differently. I heard somebody years ago say we need to treat it like a professional position, and so with that designation, it's going to have to increase the wage. I think it would also include more training. You can offset that wage by making sure that they have really high sales skills, and through high sales skills, they can pay for themselves. Especially using the Aveda experience concepts. At least for us, being in Aveda lifestyle.
So we're definitely
the experience is always going to generate sales.
So we're definitely in a labor war right now, and I don't think it's going to get any better. Human capital is becoming the issue du jour. Maybe it already has been. All right. Obviously, human capital is huge, but right now, it's just every single week, it just to be cascading in terms of the workforce and finding staff. And here's the other thing that I'm finding in my work is I'm working with a lot of owners that are looking at compensation for their leadership team, bonus plans and that kind of stuff, because members of the leadership team are starting to look around a little bit themselves. And, so it's a tight labor market right now. So I think this article is stimulating. I think it's important to really take a fresh look at the math around what a raise in the hourly rate would look like, factoring in all the other costs. So, all right, Michelle, let's keep it moving here. And there's another thing that I'm very excited to share here, and that has to do with, it's this right here. And talk about this a little bit. So this is a little bit of nudge for some of you female business owners and founders to enter into this recognition. So Michelle, you want to talk about this a little bit?
Absolutely. How many female founders do we have on the call today? Inc. is looking for 100 female founders that they can celebrate. They are definitely recognizing that the last year has been taxing. and want to give recognition to those who, even through a very tough year, have been able to be agile and move their business forward. It is an application process, so you can you can Google female founders through Inc., and the application is due by July 29th. I took a peek, and it is a pretty thorough process to get your application in, but ton of press. How great would it be to have your business recognized and all of your hard work recognized? Not only would that celebrate you, but your teams as well. And so definitely take a peek if you would qualify for that.
Excellent. Michelle, thank you.
Yeah.
All right, the next thing we want to get to is, here is another article that caught our attention. And Michelle, I'm going to turn this one over to you. Then I'm going to go through a study that I want to share with the group here.
So this article is 7 phrases every leader should say more often to build trust. It had some interesting ones. I think I appreciate you is something that is pretty straightforward. What it really encouraged you to do was say, I appreciate you because, and really identify why you're appreciating someone. I think the reminder to express appreciation openly is always appreciated. But some of these other ones were a little different. What do you see that I don't see? You know, Tom, when I very first started working with you years ago, my first 6 months of employment, you called me all the time because you said people in their first 6 months of employment can see things that people who've been here a really long time can't see. So you'd call and check in and you'd say, what do you see? And I've used that practice everywhere I've been because, you know, when people start in your business, their eyes are really different than once they've been there for a long time. And I think that question is especially helpful for people who are new to your team. Welcome to the team, you know, in leadership, making sure that you are touching base with every new person. I've got you. You know, how great is it to know that somebody's got your back, and really being able to say that as a leader to your team. Tell me more. A lot of times people, they start to tell you something, maybe they start to be quiet before they've said everything, or they don't quite say all that they're meaning to. So really digging for more, that funneling technique. I'm sorry, vulnerability, you know, there's been a lot about vulnerability for leaders lately. And it's really important to say when we mess up. The last one I thought was great. I'm signing off. You know, so many of us are working remotely now, and we have access to our technology at all times. So we get kind of used to people being available at all times, and just having some clear boundaries and saying like, hey, I'm signing off for right now. Like, you don't need to make this a priority. Our designer did that last night. She sent us something for approval at 4:50, but said, don't worry about it tonight. I'm signing off. And it was really great for me to know that I didn't need to drop what I was doing and respond to her. And so being able to just let people know when you're going to take a break or when you're done for the night, so that they can know what is needed from them too. I thought that one was great.
You know, this also relates to communication, and there's a statistic that has always stayed with me, and that is that 87% of leaders rate themselves as effective communicators. 17% of their teams agree. So there's a big gap there. We tend to overrate ourselves as communicators. We think that we do things such as express appreciation and what have you. So, and I've actually done my own studies. I've actually asked leaders to rate themselves as communication skills, and we tend to overrate ourselves. The other thing that jumps out to me, the whole expression of appreciation. It's one thing to appreciate, it's another thing to express appreciation. There's a quote, and I think I'm going to botch this, but I'm going to give it a shot anyway because it's a good one. As it relates to appreciation, it's you know, feeling appreciation but not expressing it is like wrapping a gift and not giving it to the recipient. So, you know, it's a good lesson to remind ourselves. It's one thing to feel appreciation. It's another thing to express it. So love this article. All right. Next thing I want to get to is, and this was a focal point of the roundtable we did earlier today. We didn't cover any of the stuff that we just covered right now. So some of you that were on this morning and then with us this afternoon, we did go through this, and there's a great study that's hot off the press, and it's by Bobit Business Media, also sponsored. It's also Modern Salon Research, and it was a study that they did for the first quarter of 2021. It's a robust study. I think it has like 94 different slides. I got a sneak peek at it. You can go to Salon Today, and on there you can access this a webinar that that went through the findings of the study. And there's going to be an ebook and that kind of stuff. We had Stacy Sobel on with us this morning, and this has so much relevance for the school industry, I think. And it goes through as a study of 4,555 individuals. And it was a mix of salon owners, school owners, independents, and there's various people from Pro Beauty. And there's some big ahas from the study. And one of them relates to a finding that I have, and I wonder how others of you feel about this, but there was research on here as it related to sales, and as it related to the first quarter, that sales was down compared to the previous year, no surprise. And one of the things that I want to call out to all of you, and I'm curious, this is my own point of view. I think that the second quarter of 2021 was the turnaround quarter, because some of the metrics in this study still showed a lot of fear. And now the other thing about the study, a lot of the recipients came from California, which is like a country within the country. And their business practices are so different from their states. And there was a high number of people from California here. So there was, in spite of some pessimism as it related to sales being down, it was still a very bullish group, in the sense, a tremendous amount of optimism. Now, some of the findings from this study, I've got certain slides I'll pull up here. I'm going to skip the introduction here. So for 2/5 of salons surveyed, sales for the first 3 months of 2021 were significantly lower compared to the period before their state or county's enforced shutdown period. So 41% of them reported sales significantly lower than before they closed. 23% said they're slightly lower. Now, we did and then if you scroll down, that you have several reports. Some are 9% are saying they're slightly higher, and only 5% significantly higher. We did our own poll a couple hours ago, and we found that this is really dramatically changed. So Michelle, we did that poll. Can you kind of summarize what the findings that we had as related to the second quarter? Keep in mind, this is imperfect, very different audiences, very different sample sizes, but I do believe that it does call our attention to a trend. Michelle?
Yeah, absolutely. 33% said they were significantly higher in service sales, and 29% said slightly higher in service sales. About 29% said slightly lower, but it was over half that said slightly or significantly higher in service sales. And for retail, about the same. 48% total said either slightly or significantly higher. And then only about 20% said significant or slightly lower. We did on both retail and product have about 30% say that sales were about the same.
Okay. So here's another one that's interesting to me. So if the question that was asked of the, I have some contractors on my roof. I don't know if you can share that noise with me or not. My apologies if so. So the question is, if salon sales were reported down in the first quarter, what does it due to? And almost 40% said percentage of clients hadn't returned to the salon since the shutdown. 18% is clients were stretching out time. But here's an interesting one. Only 9% said clients are purchasing fewer services or less expensive services when they do come in. So certainly very clear trend that average ticket is going up. And also very, very clear trend that this is the time for price increases. Now, I think we had a might have had a comment that came up. So let me just see what that is. All right, so what do we got here? Are there any metrics that would indicate percentage of salon closures? Great question, Michael. And I believe what came out of this study was 9%. And, you know, great. I'm glad, Michael, that you called that one out, because it really would be great to have true data around that. I remember that the buzz around back in like 2008 is that, you know, there's a salon shutting down like every 10 days, and then it doubled in 2008. But great question, Michael. It does come out in the study, and a little bit later, I'll see if I can find that. All right, so let's see what we have here next. Retail, there's some really interesting things here. Okay, so this has to do with road to recovery. Okay, based upon your company's level of business in the first quarter of 2021, 46% said the business is on the road to recovery. 27% said salon industry in the state is on the road to recovery. And then 17% the industry nationwide is on the road to recovery. Really be interesting to do this also for the second quarter. Other things, what do we got here? So when you look back at the salon shutdown in 2020, which of the statements reflect how you feel about the professional beauty industry as a career? Would have struggled financially if didn't have unemployment. So this has to do with unemployment and benefits. And so it said unemployment benefits were a lifeline for 36% of salon professionals, and 28% still struggled financially. Now, when you look back, which of the statements affect how they feel about their business? Still own your salon. So here, I think, Michael, unfortunately, I was forced to close my salon, but I'm currently working as a service provider at a suite. Here's another one. Unfortunately, I was forced to close the salon, taking another career. So that's 8% right there. I thought it was 9%, Michael. Looks like it's 8%, but you know, keep in mind the you know, perhaps some data challenges around this. Pricing's a big one, Michelle, right? You want to go through this one?
We had someone on our earlier roundtable say, if you have not increased your prices, you are making a huge mistake. It was a pretty bold statement, but I don't disagree. This here, when it comes to pricing, which of the following have you or your salon done since reopening? 42% raised prices. 12% adopted a new pricing strategy. 11% had instituted an additional COVID fee. We did a poll on the roundtable earlier and found that 15% of people on the call had instituted a COVID fee that was still in place. 31% had increased prices overall, and 42% had increased prices on some services. So it was a pretty small percentage, about 19%, that had not changed pricing. Curious to see how that relates, you know, in your schools, if you've increased pricing on your services, what's been happening with tuition and whatnot. I think that's a great conversation to get into.
Yeah, would love to see if there's any comments about pricing. And I jumped around here a little bit. All right, so pricing. Okay. Oh, this is a really interesting one. Okay, for locations that are currently open, what's the estimated percentage of original staff who are working at these locations before the shutdown are still working for you? And that was 43% yes, said all of them. And then 10% was in the category between 89 and 99% came back to work. And down below, this is the one that jumped out to somebody, a participant. That so 15% have less than half of their staff. Pretty mind-boggling, huh, Michelle?
It's heartbreaking. That's so drastic for a business.
This one, there were definitely winners and losers in this. And I saw some large groups that had a big attrition, you know, lost a lot of people. And then in a similar market, but a different part of the country, different business practices, they kept 95%. So I really feel that so much of this has to do with how the owners addressed the pandemic, communication with their team, how proactive they were, if they made them feel safe, if they acknowledged that there could be a risk for mental health issues. We'll get to mental health in a little bit here. So this was not a level playing field. And I think that much of this, many of you might disagree, but a lot of this, I think, had to do with how leadership stepped up during the pandemic. All right, what else do we got here? As of the first quarter of 2021, do you need to recruit new staff members? Do you have sufficient people currently? So 32% said they have sufficient staffing. 36% need to recruit additional staff members. This is another one, Michelle, that I think if we did this in the second quarter, that the need for more staff, because we keep hearing there's plenty of clients, not enough team. And we've been talking about that a lot on this roundtable, Michelle.
Yeah, we've been hearing about people with very long waiting lists, and also on the roundtable earlier talking about guests who are like those one-time-a-year guests are just now feeling like they can get back out, and everybody's trying to jam all their appointments in right away. And so how do you weigh your regular guests with those one-time guests that are just trying to jam appointments in?
Next, we've got, for locations that are currently open, half of salon professionals said that 81% or more of their original clients from the first quarter of 2020 were still clients and requesting services. So it looks to me like 17% said all of them are back. And yeah, I mean, this is a very interesting one here. So any comments around that one, Michelle?
I don't think so. We have been hearing a lot of new clients, though, people talking about a really high amount of new clients, and maybe that's due to some of the closures. Maybe that's due to people not going into work, and so they're looking more within their closer to where they live. But I think to add to that is a lot of new clients on top of the existing.
All right, hair color. 2/5 of salon professionals asked thought that less than 50% of their clients had colored their own hair. This is interesting too. So comments on this one, Michelle?
Lots of color corrections happening when people came back.
Right on. All right, we're going to wrap it up in a couple minutes here. What else do we got here? All right. In the future, 28% of salon professionals thought their advanced education would be a combination of live and virtual. So for second place was virtual, which is available on demand, and live in person, seen in real time at events. So definitely is, we've moved into what I believe is going to be a permanent change. And I think that many of you would certainly agree to this. We talked about this, I think, on the very first school roundtable, was a very obvious thing, and how all of you have adapted to a virtual learning platform. Carrie talked about that quite a bit 2 weeks ago. We heard about that from Nicole, Linnell, and Susan on the very first roundtable. So combination of live and virtual. One of the things that we heard loud and clear this morning, Michelle, on the salon roundtable was just the craving for in-person.
Yeah.
So virtual's here to stay, but people are craving the in-person, right?
Absolutely. I think we're going to do a lot of in-person right away because everybody's ready to be out and socializing. And then I think it's going to be interesting, the balance that we find between live and virtual, because like Candace out in California was saying, she's been able to provide education to her staff that she would have never been able to provide if it had to be live. So the virtual aspect is definitely here to stay, and we can access so much more education than we've ever been able to. So I'll definitely be curious to see how we land in the future, what that happy medium is between the virtual and the live.
All right, so we're going to pick a couple more here. There's like a ton of slides in this, and we could really spend all day talking about this, but just in the interest of time, I'm going to scroll through a few of these. And Michelle, if you want to just type in the chat that where they can get this information, okay? Nearly a fourth of salon professionals said they were slightly more successful picking up new clients now as opposed to before the shutdown. We've also got Split, I'm going to skip this. All right, here we go. This one's interesting. Over half of salon professionals surveyed are either extremely or very happy with their current salon situation. I love this. And in fact, if we look at this, if you do the math, 55, almost 75%, I think it is, are either somewhat, very, or extremely happy. So I don't know if that's really interesting. Let's see what's going on in chat. Somebody made a comment here. Okay, yeah, there we go. That was Michelle. All right. And this is an interesting one too. This has to deal with satisfaction with earnings. And what we've got here is we've got like 2/3 of people are either somewhat, very, or extremely satisfied with their compensation. That's a good sign. I wonder if we did that survey right now, how that would be responded to. All right. Retail sales, guys, I'm going to skip through here just in the interest of time. This has to do with seeing a mental health professional, and 63% of participants did not consult with a mental health professional. 21% did seek out support, and there was a handful that said that their salon actually provided access to a mental health professionals. We had, Michelle, we had Kip, who joined us. He has a location in Nashville, Tennessee, and he actually brought a professional into the team and provided access to a psychologist for, I think, about 2 months to his team. So, all right, those I think are the highlights from the study, Michelle. And you know, I wonder if anybody has any comments on any of those. If there's anything that jumps out to you, anything that you're seeing in your business. There will be more information that's coming out of this study in the future. That, like I said, they're going to do an ebook. Michelle would have put it in the chat. I'm curious if we've got any comments from the group here as we start moving our way into wind up here. Michelle, here we are. It is June 30th. It's officially the end of the first 6 months of the year. And one of the things that I wonder for these participants here is, what is their plan for the second half of the year?
Right.
And I think that's a great subject as we get into the middle of July, as to when we reconnect with everybody here, is to find out what their planning looks like for the second half of the year and some of the trends that they're seeing. Michelle,
we have our Qnity planning meeting this afternoon for us to go through our 5 functions for the next 6 months. So if you have not planned the next 6 months of the year, that is something very important to do.
excellent. All right. So next roundtable will be July 14th. And we're going to definitely have some guests for that roundtable. We're super excited about it. We're going to take next week off, and we're going to wish all of you a happy Independence Week. And for our friends in Canada, we wish you a great July and summer. And Joe, thanks for chiming in today. It was awesome. Thank you also, Leah and Mark. All progress starts when you tell the truth. And part of the purpose of this call is to allow people to tell their truth and make sure that that truth is something that serves them. So this is going to be the end of the call. And let's see here if we've got any comments down at the bottom. So Michelle, thank you for your help today. And the rest of you have a great 4th of July weekend. And we'll see you in a couple weeks.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye now.